Chief Counsel to the SEC Crypto Task Force, Michael Selig. Michael, thank you for joining us. I know you're the Chief Counsel and also Senior Advisor to Chairman Atkins. So I really appreciate your time coming to speak to us today. And to start off, could you tell us a little bit about your background before the SEC and how did you land at the SEC?
Yeah, absolutely. And first, I'll give my standard disclosure that my views are my own and not those of the commission or any of the commissioners. So a little bit about me, I started off actually working at a startup around 2011 and discovered Bitcoin and was really just fascinated by the technology. So I was working at a payments startup. And this technology really was something that could totally disintermediate our entire model. So it was really something that caught my eye. I went on to law school and started focusing on financial regulatory law, in particular securities law, and ended up working right around 2014 for then Commissioner Christian Carlo. And he has become known as Crypto Dad. At the time, he was just a starting off commissioner, and we were looking at Bitcoin, actually. He was really interested in a couple of applications to list Bitcoin futures contracts. And so we started looking at Bitcoin. We weren't sure if it was a security, a commodity, or whatnot. And we did the analysis, decided that we thought it was not likely to be a security. And so Chris, when he became chairman a few years later, greenlit Bitcoin futures, became Crypto Dad. I went into private practice and worked with innovators, entrepreneurs, and financial market firms on really engaging with the SEC, with the CFTC, advising on regulatory issues. I represented a number of these clients in enforcement matters before both of the agencies, and I did that for about 10 years. I was partner most recently at Wilkie Farr and Gallagher, which is a law firm in New York City, and then had the opportunity this year to go work for Chairman Atkins as a senior advisor and as chief counsel of the newly formed Crypto Task Force with Commissioner Hester Peirce.
Awesome. We appreciate your service. I'm aware that before you joined the commission, you published a white paper analyzing LSTs and analogizing them to warehouse receipts. I'm just curious, how did you end up doing that? And without giving us any legal advice, where did that comparison come from? How do you look at that?
Yeah, so back when I was in private practice, I spent a lot of time advising firms in the staking space, a lot of layer ones, layer twos, DeFi applications, as well as providers of liquid staking tokens. At the time, they were actually known as liquid staking derivatives, and we corrected that term since it wasn't really accurate. But when we looked at these liquid staking tokens, they looked a lot like what you would see in the commodity markets, where you have a warehouseman or a depository that takes commodities such as gold, silver, or grain in a silo and issues a receipt. It's very similar to, you drop your dry cleaning off at the dry cleaner and they give you a receipt so you can come pick it up. And these receipts oftentimes are actually the underlying to futures contracts and to different types of derivatives. So, when you actually enter into a derivatives contract for grain, you don't actually have to go pick up, or get dumped off a bunch of grain at your warehouse or at your home or at your, firm on Wall Street. You just get this receipt, and then it entitles you to go pick it up at your convenience, and it's maintained with insurance and other requirements for safekeeping. And so liquid staking tokens really resembled that, because when you engage in staking directly as an at-home staker, a solo staker, what you're really doing is you're providing settlement assurances to users. You're depositing assets in a smart contract to provide kind of security to the network. And typically that would just be reflected on chain. Your wallet address would, be associated with the deposit into the deposit contract, for example, on Ethereum. But here, all you're getting is like this receipt, which is very similar, again, to a warehouse receipt that kind of represents your staking activity. And so based on that analogy, the SEC's taken views throughout time and no action letters and otherwise saying that really when you deposit into a staking contract and you receive kind of when you deposit assets into a warehouse and you receive a receipt, and even if the warehouseman is providing insurance, which is kind of a comparable to slashing coverage, right? That's typically not essential managerial efforts. Like you're not relying on that warehouseman for your profit or your business, economics. You're relying on the commodity itself, commodity markets, and similarly with staking staking products, you're really relying on the network to generate those rewards. So there were some analogs there, and that's really what we were looking at in this white paper. Of course, that was when I was in private practice. SEC is yet to speak on this issue, but the SEC staff in corporation finance actually recently issued a staff statement that, in their view, staking as a service and staking at home, even if there's kind of pooling of assets by the staking provider, does not constitute a securities transaction. So a lot of that, there's some parallels there as well.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you for walking us through that. Let's dive into talking about the task force. So first, for anyone who doesn't know, what is the crypto task force at the SEC, and what is its role really within the commission?
So the Crypto Task Force is really the vision of Commissioner Hester Peirce, who's the leader of the team. And it came out actually of the change in administration on January 21st. Then acting chairman Mark Ueda announced the formation of this task force that would be, again, led by Commissioner Peirce. I joined a little bit later, but the initial team was kind of composed of members of the different divisions within the staff of the commission. So the commission is organized into various divisions. There's the division of trading markets, corporation finance, investment management, and so forth. And really the biggest issue at the commission, aside from the prior administration's kind of regulation by enforcement approach to policymaking, had been that there was kind of this policymaking out of silos. And crypto is really a cross-divisional, cross-office issue. So crypto can touch really everything that happens at the commission, from enforcement to rulemaking on investment management issues. And so by forming this task force that's composed of members from different divisions, different offices, as well as folks from the chairman's office like myself, we're really able to see the things holistically and make sure that things are consistent, make sure that things happen at a cross-divisional level, that there's not inconsistencies in approach. For example, if an examinations team's looking at an issue, are they taking a different view than, for example, one of the policy divisions or enforcement? So it really helps ensure that consistency. And of course, crypto is a really important issue. The president issued an executive order on digital assets shortly after taking office, and that really tasked the SEC as well as other agencies such as the CFTC to work together as part of a president's working group on digital assets to develop clear rules of the road to make the United States the crypto capital of the world. And so part of that effort is also falling into the task force to coordinate with the White House, coordinate with other agencies, develop sensible and coherent crypto regulatory policies.
Okay. And so how much of what the task force does is sort of ongoing activities that even once we have all these rules sorted out, the task force would continue to exist and sort of help oversee anything crypto versus kind of figuring things out in sort of like a one-time project way where it's like, well, we need to solve this and this and this, and then we'll sort of be done?
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to put ourselves out of a job in the sense that the task force is really a temporary thing.
Okay.
The idea is not to have policymaking in any sort of silo within the task force any more than within other divisions, but it really is needed to get things moving, get an understanding of crypto within the building, make sure there's coordination in the early stages, and then ultimately folks can go back to their divisions and continue on and with that coordination. So it's kind of like a kickstart to the car, get things moving. And then once the things are in progress, once a number of these rules have been proposed, once kind of the policies have started to move forward, then it's not really needed as a task force, right? It's really just needed as a maintenance thing. And so the plan would, it's not clear exactly how long, but the plan is certainly not to have this thing exist forever.
Okay, makes sense. And then what is your role as chief counsel? What are you responsible for within the task force?
So I'm sort of like the general counsel of the task force. My job is everything legal, is to the extent that there's matters related to rulemaking, no action letters, exemptions, really everything that's happening through these different policy divisions related to crypto. I'm reviewing that. I'm helping coordinate that. I'm kind of the legal eyes on a lot of the policy matters. I also do help with policy making, and I'm kind of advising the chairman and Commissioner Peirce and others within the building, such as our directors, on crypto-related legal and regulatory issues, helping with legislation, all of that. So it's a very involved role. It's not clearly defined all the time, but it's a fun job, and we're really trying to do good things for regulatory policy beyond crypto, but specifically on crypto.
Yeah, very exciting time to be part of the SEC, and a very exciting part of the commission to be a part of. Commissioner Peirce wrote a blog post outlining some of the intended direction and goals of the crypto task force. And one of the things she said was, it took us a long time to get into this mess, and it's going to take us some time to get out of it. The commission is engaged with the crypto industry in one form or another for more than a decade. Throughout this time, the commission's handling of crypto has been marked by legal imprecision and commercial impracticality. Pretty sharp words. What would you say are the top things that haven't been sorted out that need to be?
Yeah, Commissioner Peirce has a real way with words. She's great speaker. So, I think there are a number of things that need to be sorted out, right? Coming into this new administration, the prior SEC had taken this regulation by enforcement approach. Even before that, there was kind of this head in the sand approach, hoping it would go away. Then we moved into this phase of bringing lawsuits against everyone. And there's really a trust issue. Crypto blockchains kind of resolve some trust issues, right? You're trusting code here. We've kind of lost a lot of trust, I think, in this institution because of this, shoot first, ask questions later approach of the prior administration. So part of the job is really restoring confidence and trust, making sure that people know, they can come in, talk to the commission. They're not going to get sued on the way out. They can engage if they want to develop novel technologies or innovations within the market. Regulation shouldn't be the kind of barrier to that. Sometimes you need to engage and work through some challenges on the regulatory side. But the task force's aim is really to clear up a lot of this brush from the prior administration. Another area of brush has kind of been the lore of some of these staff positions. There are many staff that have been in the agency for many, many years, and they have not published all of their views, but they kind of have these unwritten views on certain things. And so we want to be more transparent. We want to communicate those views in writing, put things through rulemaking where appropriate, put things in staff statements where appropriate. We also want to be transparent about who's coming in to meet with us. So I think it really is in line with the open source and open ethos of crypto that we have a website that lists every meeting we take as a task force. It lists the materials, the agenda, things that are put in. Of course, people put things in sometimes confidentially, which is important to preserve as well. But generally speaking, most things are available online so that people can review that. And we think it's a good thing to work in the open and work in public in the same way that people do in crypto. So I think that's all going to help restore confidence and trust in the commission. Another big issue, of course, is kind of the clarity around crypto assets under the securities laws and crypto markets within the securities laws. Probably the biggest topic of confusion is the status of crypto assets as a type of security or certain distributions and transactions in crypto assets as a type of security. As I mentioned earlier, the staff has begun to put out some statements providing clarity on certain things like proof of stake staking activities. The staff has put out a statement on the status of proof of work mining, participation, the status of meme coins and stable coins as securities, but there's more work to do. And so we're evaluating all of that together with the different divisions. Ultimately, the goal, of course, is to do things through notice and comment rulemaking where the public can contribute their views. We can consider those comments, really get to the best place from a policy perspective. But we also recognize we need to act expeditiously to provide clarity to the market. So we're evaluating security status. Another big issue, and the chairman's been very vocal on this point, is that many folks within the markets want to offer something of a super app, right, where you can trade Apple stock against Bitcoin or Tesla against Ether, trade securities versus non-securities, whether they're crypto assets or not. And so we want to be able to provide that type of in-kind platform where people can trade and innovate with financial technologies. People might also want to offer lending and other types of services all under one roof, under a single broker-dealer license, for example, and not have to have the red tape of going out and getting different state licenses and getting a commodity broker license, et cetera. And so we're working expeditiously to try to provide some clarity around what can be done through a broker-dealer or national securities exchange as well.
And how much of the clarity you're aiming to provide do you think is going to come from just offering guidance versus actually doing rulemakings or some other process to update the way that the rules and regulations currently work?
So the goal is rulemaking. I mean, we definitely respect the process that Congress intended for us to go through, and it's not an easy process, but that's deliberately they chose to make it that process, right, through the Administrative Procedure Act. And so we respect that. We want to do things with public notice and comment. We want each commissioner to have their vote on things and be able to be heard, have their concerns weighed by the others, and that dynamic's a good one to get to the right policy. And so rulemaking is ultimately the goal. The chairman has been very vocal on this. Commissioner Peirce has been very vocal on this. But in the interim,